This conference will now be recorded.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from chapter 3, Karma Yoga, text 41 today. Tasmat tvam indriyani yadhav niyamya bharatarshava apmana prajahi khenam jnana vijnana nashanam. Translation. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. The Lord advised Arjuna to regulate the senses from the very beginning so that he could curb the greatest sinful enemy, lust, which destroys the urge for self-realization and specific knowledge of the self. Jnana refers to knowledge of self as distinguished from non-self, or in other words, knowledge that the spirit soul is not the body. Vijnana refers to specific knowledge of the spirit soul's constitutional position and his relationship to the Supreme Soul. It is explained thus in the Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.31. Jnanam paramabhukhyam me yad vijnana samanvitam sarhasyam tad angam cha grihana gatitam maya. The knowledge of the self and Supreme Self is very confidential and mysterious. But such knowledge and specific realization can be understood if explained in their various aspects by the Lord Himself. Bhagavad Gita gives us that general and specific knowledge of the self. The living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord, and therefore they are simply meant to serve the Lord. This consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So from the very beginning of life, one has to learn this Krishna consciousness, and thereby one may become fully Krishna conscious and act accordingly. Lust is only the perverted reflection of the love of God, which is natural for every living entity. But if one is educated in Krishna consciousness from the very beginning, that natural love of God cannot deteriorate into lust. When love of God deteriorates into lust, it is very difficult to return to the normal condition. Nonetheless, Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of God by following the regulative principles of devotional service. So from any stage of life or from the time of understanding its urgency, one can begin regulating the senses in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord, and turn the lust into love of Godhead, the highest perfectional stage of human life. Om Ajnanandimrandasya Dhyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Hena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master has opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I pay my humble and respectful obeisances. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. So the last class, the previous class we saw where Arjuna is asking this question to Krishna, what is impelling one to do sinful activities in this middle world? One understands that one should not commit sinful activities. One knows that also. But still, in spite of knowing, sometimes you are forced to commit that sinful activities. What is that inside us that is forcing us to commit sinful activities? So this Krishna answers. This was the text of 36th text. And Krishna gave a very, very simple answer. And that simple answer was, it is nothing but lust which is sitting inside all of us. the lust, the desire, the uncontrollable desire. Lust means what? Lust means an uncontrollable desire. It is only because of that lust which is uncontrollable by us. Why it is uncontrollable? Because our desire to possess something, either it is gross or material, or gross or subtle, is so powerful within us, that desire. So desire is something which cannot be so easily controlled. So that desire, what happens is that desire really overtakes us. And even though I know that I'm not doing the right thing, still I don't mind doing that wrong thing, because I somehow or the other want to satisfy that desire. So when I do that, then what happens is at that moment I get that satisfaction. I know that I've done wrong, but still it doesn't matter. I wanted it, I've done it, I've got it. So that's what Krishna says. And Krishna says this lust, what is there in 3 degrees, when it is there in body. As fire is covered by smoke, he says. Oh, why can't we go into the PowerPoint presentation where we saw all this? This is not. So we'll do that. So it will become easier for you also. So he says, where is that? It's here. So Krishna asks this question, and yeah, and afterwards, yes, answer this question. And he says, yeah, saw that. Then he says the lust is there in 3 degrees, just like fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, and as the embryo is covered by the womb. Similarly, what happens is the lust, we are also, the living entity is also covered by different degrees of this lust. And in explanation, it is being explained that we'll start with womb, the embryo, the one here below, where embryo is covered by womb. And in womb, what happens? It's so tight, is it not? Nothing can be done, and so much of darkness there. So ignorance is compared to darkness. And inside womb, just like it is so dark and you can't do anything there, you are so in a helpless condition. The baby is, the soul is in such a helpless condition in that. Similarly, when it's covered by so much of ignorance, what happens is that person is also in that helpless condition, and not even knowing that in a helpless condition. His level of consciousness is just like it is compared to the trees. You know, the trees are there outwardly. Embryo, at least the child is inside the womb, but outside the trees are there. The level of consciousness in trees is how much? Is the lowest level of consciousness. It doesn't even know that if someone is coming to attack. It doesn't even know that. So low level of consciousness. Then slightly above that comes the mirror covered by dust. Now this is compared to the birds and beasts. What are there? Now what happens to the birds and beasts? Their consciousness is better than that of the plants and trees, because birds and trees are in, at least in bodily consciousness. They are in bodily consciousness. So in bodily consciousness, what happens is, because they are in bodily consciousness, they know how to protect themselves. If someone is coming to attack it or something like that, it knows how to fly away or run away from that place. And the third comes is the smoke fiber cover. This is compared to the human beings, where the consciousness level is higher than just bodily consciousness. So in this human beings, we know that there is something beyond our material world. So we can understand by applying our intelligence, by listening to the scriptures, by reading the scriptures, by listening to the lectures given by the great Mahatmas, we can understand that there is something beyond us. Our body is not everything, but inside the body there is a soul, and that soul has got a connection with the Paramatma. These things we can understand in the human form of life, but not in the animal form of life or the bird form of life. In the plant form of life, absolutely no chance of knowing it. Now, in the human form of life, again, the fire covered by the smoke is also compared to something like this, that, a little bit of Krishna consciousness. Without a fire, there is no smoke. So when there is a fire, when the fire is not fully lit, the smoke comes out. But then the smoke is like covering, it is not giving us a clear picture of anything. But if the fire is kindled in us, the spark within us is kindled, this Atma is taught, and Atma is made to realize its position, then what happens is the Atma opens up gradually, and the covering our misunderstanding or our wrong understanding of anything connected with the spirit soul, that can be removed easily by kindling the fire within us. And again, by chanting the holy names of the Lord, our mind, which is like a mirror covered by dust, that can also be cleansed, and we can get a better understanding of Krishna consciousness. So this is the way the whole thing has been compared and given to us. And in the next verse, Krishna is explaining to us. So he says that this lust, what is there, this lust can never be satisfied by any amount of feeding it. You may try to satisfy it once, twice, thrice, but again and again the lust will keep on appearing. It will show its ugly head again and again. That is the nature of lust. So one can not say that I have satisfied my lust, so next time I don't have to worry about it, I will be fully satisfied now. No, it's not like that. So last time we saw the example of a smoker. A smoker smokes a cigarette saying that this is my last cigarette, I don't want to smoke anymore. I will satisfy my urge. He does that. But again, after some time, he feels like smoking another cigarette. Because why? That urge keeps coming again and again. So that is the thing. The lust is also like that. The urge, the desire keeps on cropping up again and again, and we cannot control it in an artificial manner. So that Krishna explains that. And then Krishna is also telling us where can you find this lust in our body. So he says the lust can be found in certain places, like the senses. What are there? We are satisfying everything with our senses. Our bodily desires we satisfy with the senses. So senses is the first place where you will find the lust sitting. And the mind is there. Again, the mind is the reservoir of all the various desires. It knows how to get it fulfilled, everything it knows. So the body, when the body has got some desire or some urge to get itself satisfied, how does it get it done? It gets itself satisfied through the senses. Or the body by itself cannot do anything. Is it only through the different organs of the body we get all our activities performed. So what happens is the mind is the one, is like the boss for all the senses, and the mind dictates to the senses, do this, do that. Good, excellent, you can satisfy yourself this way. If not this way, in another way you can do it. So it gives you all sorts of ideas how to satisfy the desire through the senses. Third, the intelligence, which is sitting. Intelligence is the next door neighbor of the soul. The soul is very closely associated with mind and intelligence and the false ego. All these things. Now what happens to the intelligence? Intelligence, if it has got lusty desires, it justifies every action of the mind and the senses. Not only it justifies every action of the mind and the senses, but it also convinces the soul that this is the right thing for you to do. And the soul, what happens? Because of it is convinced by the intelligence, the soul is under a false impression. It acquires that false ego and thinks that this is the right thing for everything. These are the things. This is the way I should lead the life. If I'm doing something wrong, doesn't matter. That's the way. We find many people in this world, right, who do wrong things and justify their actions, saying that no, this is the right thing I have done. They will never accept their mistake. We come across people like that. Why? It is only because of that false ego which has already come in, and the false ego has been propped up by this false intelligence, this wrong intelligence, which is this lusty intelligence, as we call it. that has propped it up and tries to convince the Atma that whatever you are doing is right. Don't bother about anybody else. You are doing perfectly correct. There are people who will always criticize you. They will always find fault. You go ahead and do these things. These are right things for you. But everyone can see that he is doing the wrong thing except himself. That's because he's totally covered by these lusty desires. So he says that, so these are the places, and he's giving us this knowledge where these are sitting, so that if we want to correct ourselves, we know what we should do and how we should correct ourselves. So that's why it has been given. And then afterwards, in today's verse, after this today's verse, what we read today, Krishna says, therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Now, we have told many times in the past that the senses cannot be controlled, but the senses can be regulated. It is very difficult to control the senses. You cannot sit idle at any time. The senses need some occupation or the other. If it is kept occupied in the right things, it will keep on doing it. But if it is not kept occupied in Krishna consciousness, what happens? The senses will automatically do all the material activities. That is the nature of the senses. We have to understand and accept this truth. The nature of senses is to be engaged, number one. It depends upon in what activity we engage them. If we are engaging them in Krishna conscious activities, there is a gradual progress, there is a gradual happiness and bliss for the Atma. But if it is not engaged in Krishna consciousness, the nature of the sense is to get itself engaged in material activities. And once it gets engaged in material activities, then both happiness, distress, everything keeps coming. Now we have to understand, when we are talking about this, in the purport what we saw, he says this, the Lord advised Arjuna to regulate the senses from the very beginning so that he could curb the greatest sinful enemy, lust, which destroys the urge for self-realization and specific knowledge of the self. Now we have to understand what is our nature. He's talking of it which destroys the urge for self-realization and knowledge. He says jnana and vijnana. He's talking of it. What is that jnana? What is that jnana? What is that knowledge? That knowledge is that I am not this body, I am this Atma. That is the first knowledge we should have. All right, I got that knowledge. We all know that right from our childhood, that we are not this body, we are this Atma. Yes, I understood. Second comes, so what? What is the next I think I should do? There is the next question that comes up. Okay, if you are not the body, if you are the Atma, then what is your relationship with the Paramatma? What is your duty? So that is the second knowledge, knowing that I am an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. I have got a constitutional relationship with the Supreme Lord. That is a second, that is a jnana. I have got a relationship with the Supreme Lord, and my relationship is in the form of devotional service for the Lord. See, having knowledge is one thing, but we should also know how to put that knowledge into practical application. And that practical application is to know that I have a relationship with the Supreme Lord and I have to do devotional service. So once I have that knowledge also, that I have to put myself in the devotional service of the Lord, then I start applying myself in that activity. So why? What is the thing? I'm a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. You know, Mamaivamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Krishna says, Mamaivamsho Jiva Loke. All the Jivatmas are my part and parcel. Krishna says, they're all my amshas. Krishna is explaining in Bhagavad Gita. So if I'm part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, what is the duty of a part and parcel? The duty of the part and parcel is to serve the whole. Is it not? My hand is a part and parcel of this body. What is the duty of the hand? The duty of the hand is to serve this body. Is it not? Suppose my back is scratching. What will go to my back to scratch? If my back is scratching, it's the duty of the hand to go back and scratch. And if my hand is not able to reach that part where it is scratching, I look out for some sharp thing with which I can scratch. Many times we take a comb, or we get that ready-made back scratchers you get, that like in the form of a small hand, you get all the fingers. With that you can scratch your back. That hand immediately takes it out and starts scratching the place where my hand cannot reach. But if the hand can reach, the hand immediately scratches that place. Is it not? When I want to eat, the eating has to be done. We eat only with the hands. We don't eat with our legs. So being part and parcel of the body, the duty of the hand is to serve the complete body. Similarly, we are all part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. As part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, our duty is to serve the Supreme Lord by doing devotional service to Him. And this understanding, this consciousness that I have to serve the Lord is called Krishna consciousness. So right from the very beginning, we have to learn this Krishna consciousness and see how to serve the Lord. Now, what is this lust? Krishna has explained it in different places in Bhagavatam, everywhere it gets explained. In the spiritual world, there is only love of God. As a spirit soul, I also have got that love of God. But when I come down to this material world, this love of God has got converted. It is a perverted form of love of God, and that is lust. So, because just like raindrop is coming from the top, from the sky, monsoon season, we have got rainy season now. The rain is coming. The rain is very pure, but the minute it touches the ground, it becomes impure. We can't drink it. But if I'm standing just like this, if I keep my mouth open, when the rain comes, it can directly go into my mouth. It is pure at that time. Like that, the spirit soul is pure in nature. But the minute it comes down to this material world, it gets influenced by the three gunas, by the prakriti, and it gets contaminated. And hence, one has to be very careful, realize this, become conscious of it, and see how one not get further down into contamination, but bring it back to its original position. And it can be brought back to its original position only by doing devotional service for the Lord, and not by engaging oneself in the material activities. Even if one is engaging in one's material activities and one is overpowered by this lust, still that can be overcome. How? By engaging oneself in Krishna consciousness. Because Krishna consciousness is more powerful than this lust. So in Krishna consciousness, we do very simple activities. Very simple activities we do to convert, to arouse our Krishna consciousness. What are those simple activities? That sometimes we get a flower. We go out, we see there's a beautiful flower available. Buy that flower, offer it to the Lord. It becomes a Krishna conscious activity. Simple. I make my bhoga, I make my food, offer it to the Lord. That becomes a Krishna conscious activity. I talk to somebody else. My nature is to talk. While talking, if I can also talk on Krishna, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, that becomes a Krishna conscious activity. When I'm talking something to glorify the Supreme Lord, Krishna, what all he did, how he did, some stories, there are so many, Bhagavatam is full of stories on Krishna. Some stories I tell to some children or some to adults, that becomes a Krishna conscious activity. I'm sleeping at night, going to sleep at night. While going to sleep at night, I pray to the Lord and say that, oh Lord, let me get up tomorrow early morning so that I can do nice devotional service for you. The sleeping activity itself becomes a Krishna conscious activity, because while going to sleep, I am thinking of having a nice rest so that tomorrow morning I can get up early in the morning and do my devotional service for them. Now, how much more one wants the whole thing to be made, one wants this to be simplified further than this. Just look at it like this. So I'm not changing any of my activities. My daily activities are going on as it is. But only my mind, my attitude have changed. I've turned my mind towards Krishna. I've turned. So mind is a pivot. We have to understand that. The mind is a pivot. If I think of Krishna, if I think of Krishna conscious activities, I can get liberation. If my mind thinks of material activities, lusty things, I get into material bondage. Simple. So everything is how I think, what attitude I have, what thoughts I have, what mindset do I have. This is simple. So Krishna consciousness can be taken at any stage. Some people say that I have become very old now, I can't do Krishna conscious activity. No, nothing like that. From the time I realize that I have to be Krishna conscious, I am the servant of the Lord, I have to do my activities to please the Supreme Lord, the minute I get that thought, from that time onwards, if I put myself in Krishna's service, I get into Krishna consciousness. I got into the right path. I got into the right path. I may achieve my goal maybe this lifetime or next lifetime or after 10 lifetimes. Doesn't matter. At least I'm on the right path. Just like the example of a medical student I've explained before. Someone wants to become a doctor. Just because he wants to become a doctor, he cannot take a stethoscope and put it and walk. But the minute that person, that boy or a girl gets admission into the medical college, wants to get admission into the first year MBBS, that student is in the right path. Because if not today, in another 5 years time, that boy or girl will become a doctor. But already the student is in the right path. Is it not? Like that. The minute I understand Krishna consciousness, I start practicing Krishna consciousness under the guidance of a guru or another person who is more knowledgeable than me in Krishna consciousness, then I am on the right path and I can make nice progress. So Krishna says here in the 41st verse, therefore Arjuna, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin lust by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Then Krishna is giving the hierarchy of all these various things that we see. So this is text 42. Indriyani parani ahur indriyebhyah param manaha manasastu para buddhiryo buddhehe paratastu saha. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind, and the soul is even higher than the intelligence. Purport. The senses are different outlets for the activities of lust. Lust is reserved within the body, but it is given vent through the senses. Therefore, the senses are superior to the body as a whole. These outlets are not in use when there is superior consciousness or Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, the soul makes direct connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the hierarchy of bodily functions as described here ultimately ends in the Supreme Soul. Bodily action means the functions of the senses, and stopping the senses means stopping all bodily actions. But since the mind is active, even though the body may be silent and at rest, the mind will act as it does during dreaming. But above the mind is the determination, the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul proper. If therefore the soul is directly engaged with the Supreme, naturally all other subordinates, namely the intelligence, mind and senses, will be automatically engaged. In the Katha Upanishad, there is a similar passage in which it is said that the objects of the sense gratification are superior to the senses, and mind is superior to the sense objects. If therefore the mind is directly engaged in the service of the Lord constantly, then there is no chance that the senses will become engaged in other ways. This mental attitude has already been explained. Param drishtva nivartate. If the mind is engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is no chance of its being engaged in the lower propensities. In the Katha Upanishad, the soul has been described as Mahan, the great. Therefore, the soul is above all, namely the senses, object, the senses, the mind, and the intelligence. Therefore, directly understanding the constitutional position of the soul is the solution of the whole problem. With intelligence, one has to seek out the constitutional position of the soul and then engage the mind always in Krishna consciousness. That solves the whole problem. A neophyte spiritualist is generally advised to keep aloof from the objects of the senses. But aside from that, one has to strengthen the mind by use of intelligence. If by intelligence one engages one's mind in Krishna consciousness, by complete surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then automatically the mind becomes stronger. And even though the senses are very strong like serpents, they will be no more effective than serpents with broken fangs. But even though the soul is the master of intelligence and mind, and the senses also, still, unless it is strengthened by association with Krishna, in Krishna consciousness, there's every chance of falling down due to the agitated mind. So we can see here, body, senses, mind, intellect, and then the soul. The soul occupies the highest position here. So if you see, we have got this body. In other words, if you have to talk, we all have our body, and we also can, by our own intelligence, understand who is the owner of this body. Atma is the owner of the body. If Atma is the owner of the body, who is the big boss? Atma is the big boss. Is it not? Because the body is owned by the soul, by the Atma. Obviously, the body's duty is to serve the soul. In simple terms, we can talk like this. Now, look at it like this. We are in a very difficult situation. Although we know that I am the owner of this body, although I know that I have got intelligence which has got a duty to serve me, although I know that I have got a mind, I have got the senses, body, these are all under my control, are all supposed to be under my control, and they are all supposed to do things for my satisfaction. Actually, what has happened to our body? We have lost control over everything. I have no control over my body. I have no control over my senses. I have no control over my mind. Everybody is dictating terms to me. I, poor soul, I simply am being tossed from one desire to another desire. Sometimes there is a desire of the tongue. Sometimes there is a desire of the ears. Sometimes there is the desire of the eyes. It wants to see some very erotic movies. It has got that. Eyes want to see that satisfy itself. Genitals make its own demands. The stomach makes its demands. Mind is that it makes its demands. Everybody is making its demands. Actually, they are all supposed to be serving me. But I have allowed over a period of time for all these organs to control me, not knowing my real position. Suddenly I realized, I am the owner of this body. I am the boss actually. But that is for a temporary, momentary thing. It is like the servants in a house controlling the master. That's what our position is like. We find that also in some places. The servants control the master. Servants decide what should be done, what the master should do. The managers are there, or everybody is there. They say, you do this. This is the right thing for you to do. And the master, poor chap, he can't do anything. He just simply listens to all these people, believing that they are all his well-wishers. Actually, they are doing to satisfy themselves. Same case, we are in that position. But the minute I realize I am the Atma, I am the owner of the self, I am the owner of this body, everybody is my servant, they are all supposed to serve me, and I have got a duty to perform in this world, and that duty is my devotional service that I have to perform of Krishna, and I have to connect myself with Krishna. And I know that what happens, automatically all these various things will come under control. But when I try to, many times what people try to do, they try to control their senses, they try to control their mind. They want to control their mind by doing yoga. So they get into that yoga and they try to control. No way. Mind is too powerful to be controlled. It's extremely powerful. Can't believe it, that powerful it is. I'm talking to you. Your mind is also thinking of so many things. Is it not? So it's not possible to control anything like that so easily for us. This we have to understand. So what happens here as a result? We know that the soul is connected to the supreme super soul. We know that. And the soul has to try to connect itself to the super soul by doing spiritual activities. Krishna, once the realization comes, yes, I'm the owner of this body. I'm the big man here. And others are there to serve me. That realization has to come. And once that realization comes, and I start doing my Krishna conscious activities, take the help of Krishna, automatically everything will come under control. Because all these things are influenced by the various three gunas, which we will again see later on in the later chapters, how the three gunas influence all of us. So that's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, is it not? He says, no, what does he says? That Daivihi Yesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratya Mameba Prapadyante Maya Metant. He says these three gunas of mine are very, very powerful. You cannot overcome it. But one who takes shelter of me, one who surrenders to me, for me it's very easy to control these, to cross over the ocean of ignorance. He says that. In an ignorant condition, we are allowing the senses and the mind to rule us. But once I am awakened and I relate myself to Krishna, what happens? All these senses, body, mind, intelligence, everything will come under our control. Everything will do things to support the soul. They are all there to support the soul, to work for the soul. They all will work, provided we connect ourselves to Krishna consciousness. And once we connect ourselves to Krishna consciousness, the soul, and we do things for the satisfaction of the soul, then what happens? In what life do we lead? We are in a happy state of mind. Savai pumsam paro dharmo eto bhaktiradokshje tuki apratiyata yat atma suprasidati. Suprasidati. Very happy, very blissful condition we can live in this world. Krishna says, live happily. Why are you not living happily? You should live happily in this world. Krishna is always happy. Krishna is always an enjoyer. Krishna is always doing something or the other which will bring him. He is very playful. He does everything to make himself happy. That's a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Shouldn't we also be happy by doing things what he is doing? By connecting with him? We can also be. Just we have to connect ourselves with the Supreme Lord. That is a secret of success. Connect the soul with the Supreme Soul by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. See how much of happiness comes. Automatically the happiness comes. So many miracles also take place in life. Is it not? Things go perfectly as long as the desire is to do things in the spiritual activities. But if you are going to try to use spiritual activities to satisfy our material desires, that will not work. That will not work. Because Krishna is very clever. He is too clever for us. He understands our mind. We may not understand our mind. We may not understand our hidden agenda also sometimes. But Krishna can understand our hidden agenda. So he will not support us if our hidden agenda is for my own satisfaction. But anything for the satisfaction of Krishna and Krishna senses, Krishna immediately helps us out to get things done. So that is the beauty of it. So we have to understand, anyway, ultimately I want to live happily. If I want to live happily, what is the solution? What is the secret of that? Simply connect with Krishna. That's all. Just like if I want to be happy, I go after another person who is in a happy mood. I associate with somebody who is humorous, who has got this humor, who has got this ability to talk in a jovial way always. Because by talking to him, I also become happy. Same way, Krishna is an ocean of pleasure. He is an ocean of pleasure. He does everything that will make him happy and his devotees happy. He does that. So if that is the case, why not associate with him? I will always get positive thoughts. I will always get beautiful ideas, very nice ideas, which will make me happy, which will make others also happy. So that is the secret of success is being explained here. That's why this hierarchy is being given. You have to understand this hierarchy and see how I can connect my soul directly with Krishna conscious activities, so that all the other things which keep giving me my troubles, all these things can be brought under control. Very easy it is. Then here is being explained further learning. Further focus of learning is senses are superior to matter because the senses are different outlets for the activities of lust. Anything that the body wants, anything the mind wants, it has to get it fulfilled only through the senses. And what is the solution to the problem? Engage in direct connection with Krishna. Less are not in use to exhibit lust. We will not be able to stop the bodily activities. We have to understand that. Artificially, we will never be able to do it. Because how much soever I may try, the mind is always active and it will engage me even without my own knowledge in some activity or the other, if it is not engaged in Krishna conscious activity. If it is not engaged in Krishna conscious activities, it will engage itself in material activities. So again, what is greater than intellect is that desire. What is that desire? The human energy can also be utilized constructively by controlling the senses. This is possible only if we have disciplined life with full control over our senses, mind and reason by engaging it in Krishna conscious activities. Just we cannot have a disciplined life with full control over our senses, mind and reason just like that. Artificially not possible, but by engaging it in Krishna conscious activities. Then the last verse for the day, where it is being explained, text 43. Evam buddhehe param buddhva samstabhyat mana atmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kama rupam durasadam. Thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should study the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. See how he's saying, he's very nicely using the word like insatiable enemy known as lust, and how it can be conquered. It can be conquered by spiritual strength. So Krishna has also pointed out all these things, and he has also given us the solutions for all these things. He has also given us the solution. So now I know the problem. I also know the solution. Now it's up to whom to take it up. It is up to me. The choice is mine. Because Krishna also gives me that independence. He is not forcing me to do anything. We have to understand that. Krishna is more liberal than anybody else. You know, he is highly democratic. He doesn't believe in autocracy. He says everything. He gives you all the solutions. He points out everything. He leaves it. He says, you decide, boss. You are there. You have got the intelligence. You have got everything to think and do. Use your own intelligence and do what you think is right. Either you want me as Krishna, or you want Maya. Choice is yours. If you choose me, you are under my control. I will take care of you. He says, I will protect you at all times. In all situations, I will protect you if you come under my control. If you accept me, if you acknowledge my position, if you acknowledge and if you want to serve me, if you want to think that, yes, I want to be with Krishna, I want to love Krishna. If you think like that, I will take care of you. I have no ego problems. I can be a charioteer to Arjuna. When Sudama comes home, I can wash his feet. You can see here, Krishna is washing the feet of Sudama. He says, I can wash the feet of Sudama also. I don't have a problem. Any devotee comes, I can wash his feet. when I can do that. That's not an issue. If I have to be a charioteer for Arjuna, I can be a charioteer for Krishna, Arjuna also. Even if you are an animal, if you are in the monkey form, Hanuman is a great dasa of Rama. Rama hugged him and said, "You are my bhakta, you are my servant. I don't consider you as my servant. You are my great devotee." And he hugged him. He did that. Dayalu. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu, Deenabandhu, Jagatpate. He says, he is a Jagatpati, but he is also a Deenabandhu. Deenabandhu means what? Someone who is crestfallen, is totally broken, helpless condition. He is his protector. He is his protector, is there. Suratam Sarva Bhutana. He says that, I am the well-wisher for all the living entities. He says, Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu. He is a Karuna Sagara. He is. But I have to approach him, no. I have to turn my face towards him and not think that I can do everything on my own. When I start thinking like that, then I'm in trouble. Then he says, all right, do. If you think that you can do everything yourself, do it. No problem. When Draupadi called him in the forest, because Durvasa Muni and everybody had come to eat, what did Krishna do? He asked her to bring that Akshay Patra. She said, I've washed it already. There is nothing. He said, bring it, doesn't matter. And when she brought it, there was one small particle inside of spinach. He just took it and put it in. Durvasa and his 10,000 disciples, their stomach was full. They had come to eat after the lunch time, after these people have finished their lunch, knowing very well they won't have anything to serve. But no, Krishna made sure that Pandavas are not put into any difficulty. We have many stories like this, where Krishna protects his devotees. Many are there, throughout in different forms. He doesn't consider whether one is rich or whether one is poor or anything. No, the only qualification is how much of love and affection we show for Krishna by doing devotional service. That is the only thing. And when we do that, what happens is we are able to build that spiritual strength within us. Gradually we build it up. And when that gradual spiritual strength is built in us, what happens? The influence of the lust, the influence of the material things, the influences of the senses, mind, intelligence, everything is directed towards Krishna consciousness. And they all want to do Krishna conscious activities later on. They don't want to do material activities, or they don't want themselves to be satisfied. So that is the thing. So we must all be trained in Krishna consciousness by higher intelligence, because we have been given this intelligence by Krishna himself. As I said, Krishna is not going to force us to do certain things. He is giving us everything. Open book. Take it, read it, understand. Understand it from a guru if you are not able to understand on your own. Krishna says that also in Tad Vidhi Pranipatene Pariprashneni Sevaya Upadekshanti Te Jnanam Jnaninas Tattva Darshana. He says, go to a guru. I have also gone to a guru. You also go to a guru. Learn from a guru. You will understand what Krishna consciousness is. He says. And the last slide, summarization. This here being given. So here we can see characteristics of lust is given from text 37 to 41. And from 40 to 43 is also giving us how to fight this lust, how to overcome this lust. All of you can see, right? So lust is born out of passion, mode of passion. Then it gets into mode of ignorance. When the passion is not satisfied, when the lust is not satisfied, it becomes into, it degrades into anger, and that is in the mode of ignorance. Then it forces us to act sinfully, and all devouring greatest enemy of living entity is this. We saw this. So what is the solution? Regulate the senses. Because intelligence and mind are difficult to control, one begins with senses. Start regulating the senses by devotional service, by engaging them in devotional service under Guru's direction. Take the direction of a Guru. He is always there. Guru is one who is not interested in his own. Guru is not one who starts charging you money for teaching Bhagavad Gita. We should know that. Or one who has got his own desires to be fulfilled. If he's doing that, then he is not a guru. No? Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam and all are to be given free of cost to everybody. This knowledge is to be shared with everyone. That's why whatever we know, we should share with others. Keep it to ourselves, not thinking that I do not know much. Whatever little I know, I should give it to others. That's the way it is. So I should engage the soul in Krishna consciousness. Once I engage my soul in Krishna consciousness, what happens? Then my intelligence gets strengthened, mind gets engaged in Krishna consciousness, and mind, once it is engaged in Krishna consciousness, it will engage senses also in Krishna consciousness. Lust is never satisfied like fire. Senses drags the mind drags the intelligence, everything. But lust is never satisfied by artificial means, but I can engage everything in Krishna's service and bring everything, my senses, my mind, intelligence, everything, put it in the service of Krishna, and thereby my desire is also to only serve Krishna. Everything becomes spiritual. All right. So with this, I will stop the class for the day. We have finished the third chapter also now. That's good for everybody else. We have finished it. And now, yeah, any questions anybody has got? Anything you would like to ask? Bala Saheb Kadam, does soul have any power? Sorry, there is a question. Does soul have any power to control our senses? If not, then how after our death our soul gets punished for the wrong deeds? Yes, soul have any power to control our senses? Definitely, as I explained, who is the proprietor of this body? The soul is the proprietor of the body. So what is the duty of the others in this? What is the duty of the body? The body's duty is to serve the soul. You are working in a company, or you own a company. People are working in your company. What is the who is the proprietor of that company? You are the proprietor. What is the duty of everybody else working in that company? To do things, whatever you direct, whatever you want. So you are the boss, others are your servants. They are to simply serve you. If that is the case, similarly, the Atma is the owner of this body. That we can understand by our intelligence. It has got, everybody has got a duty to control. Everybody has got a duty to serve the Atma. But Atma has to realize that I am the body. Currently, my problem is I don't realize that I am the owner of this body. So I do whatever the senses are telling me, the mind is telling me, the intelligence is telling me. The minute I connect myself with the Paramatma, I start doing my Krishna conscious activities. What happens is the mind comes under control, the intelligence comes under control, the senses also come under my control, and everybody is engaged in Krishna conscious activities. So when it starts engaging itself in Krishna conscious activities, there is no question of doing anything bad or anything good. That is not anything material. Let me put it like that. There is no question of doing anything material, but anything that is done, everything is on the spiritual platform, on the absolute platform. And when everything is done on the spiritual platform, there is no question of good karma or bad. If there is no question of good karma or bad karma, then there is no question of any punishment or reward. On the contrary, I am on the spiritual platform. I am with the Krishna consciousness always. You are muted. Yeah.
Yes. So Prabhuji understood. Thank you so much. I just I can correlate one phrase that you mentioned, that I cannot control my senses, but I should be regulating my senses through my activities.
Yeah. So we regulate our activities only through Krishna consciousness. Artificially, I can never control my senses. My senses are very, very powerful. My mind is very powerful. All these are very, very powerful organs in us. But the minute I showed you that hierarchy. You saw that hierarchy? The body, the mind, the body, the senses, the mind, intelligence, and soul. So who is on the topmost? Topmost is the soul, which means the soul is the highest, is it not? If that is the highest, he's like the chairman sitting. The chairman can control everybody down the line, right? But if the chairman allows everybody to control him, what happens to him? Everything becomes really goes haywire. That's what happened. We have totally gone haywire in our body. Actually, we have allowed everything to go haywire in our body. Anything and everything can take place in disaster. I have no control over anybody. It's like a chairman having no. It's like a government. Government having no control over its citizens. Simply putting it. So everybody can do whatever they want. What will happen to that country then?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Prabhuji,
Yeah.
my humble question. When do we see the realization of what we see in chapter 3 in the real world?
Sorry,
according
repeat.
to you, when
What
do we
is it?
see when we see the realization of what is professed in chapter 3 in your sense, in your assessment?
When do we see the realization of Krishna consciousness? When we start practicing Krishna.
Of what is meant in chapter 3, all control over mind, body.
Yeah. Control over mind, body, senses. It takes place when we start engaging ourselves in Krishna consciousness with full sincerity and attentiveness. And seva.
No, I am making a request is a prophecy whether we will see it in our lifetimes. That
depends upon the level of our sincerity. That depends upon our level of attention that we give. How much of sincerity it all depends on. If I am very sincere and I'm doing it, yes, it can be possible. It can be done even in this lifetime, or it can take of lifetime, depending upon my consciousness. The story of the Brahmana and the cobbler, this story has been told before, but I will again repeat it. Prabhu, can you just mute your this thing, Balraj Prabhu? So what happens is, once Narada comes down to this material world, he's walking, he sees a Brahmana. Brahmana is a great, he's a Pandit. He recites all the Vedas and everything he does. And when he sees Narada Muni, he says, "Oh Narada Muni, please tell me when will be my moksha, because you are so close to Narayan and you go and meet Narayan regularly." So Narada Muni says, "Yes, from here I'm going to Narayan only to meet him. I will definitely ask him when is your moksha." Guru was great. Then while walking further, he sees one cobbler. Cobbler also sees Narada Muni. He prays his obeisances. And cobbler says, "Where are you going, Narada Muni?" So Narada Muni says, "I'm going now to Vaikuntha Loka." So cobbler says, "Can you please do me a favor? Can you ask Narayana when I will be relieved? When will be my last janma? When will I realize?" So Narada Muni says, "Definitely I will do it." So he goes to Vaikuntha Loka. He meets Narayana, and he presents to Narayana both these appeals of the Brahmana and the cobbler. Narayana smiles and then tells, cobbler will get the release from this will be his last janma. He will be liberated after this janma. And the Brahmana, he will have to take another 10 janmas he has to take. Narada is shocked. Narada says, cobbler doesn't even take your name. He takes your name only 2 or 3 times a day. Whereas that Brahmana, throughout the day, he keeps chanting your Vedas. He's reciting everything. He's also narrating Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam to others. Narayana says, when you go down, both of them will ask you what I was doing in Vaikuntha Loka. So you tell both of them that I was holding a small needle in my hand And through the eye of the needle, I was pulling an elephant from this end to the other end. And once the elephant is on the other end, from the other end again, I was I was pulling the elephant to this end by holding its tail. So I'm just pulling the tail and pulling the elephant to this side, and again pulling the elephant to the other side through the eye of the needle, small needle. So Narada Muni says, all right, okay, you have got some leela to perform. Let me understand what it is like. So he goes down, he meets the Brahmana, and he tells the Brahmana, when he meets the Brahmana, Brahmana asks, what was Narayana doing? So he tells Narayana was playing there. And Narayana was holding a pin, was holding a needle, and through the eye of the needle, Narayana was pulling an elephant from this side to other side by holding its tail. And from the other side, he was pulling the tail and bringing it to this side. This is what he was playing through the eye of the needle. So the Brahmana laughed. Brahmana said, Narada Muni, you are trying to fool me. How is it possible to pull an elephant through the eye of a needle like this? It's impossible. Tell me truly what he was doing. He said, this is what he was doing. Narayana, Brahmana was saying, no, Narada, you are just joking. But anyway, did you ask my liberation? He said, under 10 janmas. All right. He goes to the cobbler. Cobbler says, Narada, please tell me what Narayana was doing when he went with him. He was so excited. So Narada said, Narayana was holding a needle through the eye of the needle. He was pulling an elephant from one end to the other, from one side to other side by pulling its tail. And once the elephant has been pulled to the other side, again he was pulling the elephant to this side by holding its tail, through holding the tail and bringing through the eye of the needle the elephant. Cobbler said, wow, what a great personality Krishna is. Narayana can do anything and everything. He is simply great. So Narada Muni said, do you believe this, Cobbler? Is it possible to believe? Cobbler said, why it is not possible? I'm sitting below this banyan tree. The banyan tree's seed is so small. And with this, through this small seed, such a big banyan tree is coming, and this banyan tree is producing so many other seeds. And through these seeds, like this, millions of seeds are produced, and millions of trees, banyan trees can come out from this small seed. So why Narayana won't be able to pull the elephant through the eye of the needle? Narayana is capable of doing anything, everything he can do. That opened Narada's eyes. He said, wow, what an amount of faith he has got. Tremendous faith on Narayana, that Narayana can do anything. This man has got this faith, this cobbler. No wonder with this faith he is able to get liberation. Like that, Prabhu, it all depends upon how much of conviction we have got about the Supreme Lord, how much we are surrendered to the Lord, and how much we are willing to accept his supremacy and saying that everything he can do. Once I got that full faith, whatever he does, it must be right. That is for my benefit only. When I get that, then I surrender. Unmute.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Any other question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Shashikant here.
Yes, Sashikant. Can you show your face, Sashikant? You can unmute your.
I have.
Oh, you unmuted, but the audio, yeah.
So, Prabhuji, does every living entity has the lust? And if yes, then how do they attain the Krishna consciousness? It's like apart from human being.
Yes. Lust is there in all the living entities. You can see the form of lust is the attraction for the opposite gender. You see, attracted to its opposite gender. An animal gets attracted to human beings get attracted to the opposite gender. Even the plants and there is an attraction. Only through pollination and everything it takes place, right? The further birth and everything takes place. So there is a natural attraction for this opposite gender. The love, what is there in the spiritual world, has got converted to lust, and it is there. But in the lower species of life, they do not know how to control it. They're all in their bodily consciousness. Understand? But in this human, I am something beyond that bodily consciousness. I can understand that there is something beyond me. I am proprietor of this body. I'm the Atma. There is Paramatma. I've got a relationship with Paramatma. All these things I can understand in this. So once I get that understanding, with that understanding, I can take up to Krishna.
Okay. Okay.
Prabhuji, just want to clarify one thing. Hare Krishna. Lust over here refers to all material sinful activities, right? It doesn't only refer to attraction, sexual lust. It refers to greed, it refers to cheating, it refers to everything, correct?
Yes,
And this
yes.
is my understanding after reading this text.
Yes, correct. Lust means controllable desire to possess something.
So greed,
Uncontrollable desire to
cheating,
possess
and
something. In the uncontrollable
violence
desire
and everything comes under the banner of lust over here.
yes, yes, yes. I want to become very powerful. I don't mind indulging in violence to put others under control. I don't mind when it comes to all those things. We'll do that. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
All the 5 vikaras.
Hare
Mataji,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the 5 vikaras.
Any other question? Okay. So with this, we'll stop the class for the day. Thank you very much, Paula. Ki Jai.
Jai.
Guru Maharaj
Jai.
ki
Jai.
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 Bhagavad
Jai.
Gita.
Jai.
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 Thank you, Balaji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.